Thank you very much, Christine. It's a little bit hard to compete with keys. I know that the last time I tried that I was out all night, but in the morning my wife let me in. This is a very special night for me, as it always. Make this a little bit lower. Somebody might wake up if I speak too loudly. It's a very special night for me, as it is always when I speak to Christine's group. Thank you again for inviting me tonight, and I hope that I'll be able to say something of value. Is there anyone here who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, or of being around when I was speaking? Or is everybody, we got 3 or 4 or 5. We talked about raising hands tonight. Come on, don't be afraid. As usual, we have about 50-50. So I'll tell you a little bit about how I got to be here, because I think it's very important. As I've been introduced, I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I was raised as a traditional Jew, not Orthodox. I came to Orthodoxy around the time of my bar mitzvah. It was a bunch of years ago. And around that time, I also found a great interest in the land of Israel and in the state of Israel. Excuse me, we've talked tonight about the miracle of the return of the Jewish people to Israel. You've spoken tonight, Christine, about the mystery of the church, how you don't know how what's going to be with the church 2,000 years. The parallel time for that mystery for the Jewish people has been the mystery of the exile.
Yes, yes.
And we didn't know when it was going to end, because the Jewish people had an exile between the first and the second temples. And that exile was prophesied would last 70 years.
That's right.
And so, and sure enough, it lasted 70 years. So when the second exile came around, then it wasn't too hard to understand that it would last 70 years. Everybody was waiting, okay, 70 years is coming up, and I guess it's time to go back. And in fact, sometime after the exile, there was the Jewish War of Bar Kokhba, and it was very close. That was probably one of the things that Bar Kokhba had in mind when he led the Jewish people in the Jewish war against the Romans, but he lost. And the Jewish people went into exile. So he said, okay, it'll be 70 years, maybe it'll be 71 years, maybe 75, maybe 100. And little by little, more and more, this idea of the exile became less and less a thing that's going to happen immediately, and something that's going to happen sometime. Something that's going to happen less because of our hands and more because of our prayer. You were talking tonight, of course, about the Temple Mount. I want to get back to that. There's a machloket, a disagreement among Jewish sages. How will the temple be restored? Will it be restored because it will come down in fire from the heavens? Or will it be restored because people will build it? Now, you've heard here, not here, but this group of Christine's group of exploits has heard Yehuda Glick speaking, and I'm squarely in Yehuda's camp, that the temple will be built with hands. Of course it will be built with prayers, as we said, but you can't leave away the hands. We were talking tonight about the hands. I guess tonight is the night of hands. But in any case, over these, and I'll get back to, remember, people remember, we've got the hands and we've got the temple. But throughout these thousands of years, the Jews believed in redemption, but could not picture it except in a mysterious, spiritual, amazing, divine fashion. And then all of a sudden, not so much all of a sudden, but relatively all of a sudden, the people began coming back in a somewhat natural fashion. And the Zionist movement of Herzl, of Ben-Gurion, of Jabotinsky, all of these leaders, they were leaders of hands. Wow. And they said, we have to do this work. And the miracle occurred, but it occurred so naturally, so much so that many traditional Jews who were holding on to the traditions. What was the tradition? We're here in the exile. God will redeem us and save us in a miraculous fashion. So those Jews who believed that, they looked at what was going on and said, this can't be. It can't be that God was promising us this miraculous redemption, and here it's coming. Herzl, Jabotinsky, Ben-Gurion. I didn't know that these men were great rabbis. How could these men be saints? How could they be prophets? They're just non-religious Jews. So many religious Jews could not accept it. But I was lucky enough to be involved and exposed to the B'nai Akiva religious Zionist youth movement. And that is what that tremendous, amazing connection that I felt to the land of Israel, to the God of Israel, to the people of Israel, and to the state of Israel. This is what brought me to the land of Israel and to the state of Israel back in high school. So that is something that I continue to identify my life as a religious Zionist Jew. Religious meaning I believe in God, I believe in His Torah, I believe in His guidance for the Jewish people. And I'm a Zionist because I believe that the place for the people of Israel is in the land of Israel. Not just in prayer, as we've been praying for thousands of years, but actually, you mentioned that it's the time, the time of the Gentiles has come to an end, if I quoted that properly. The time of the exile has come to an end. And it's just incredible. And so that type of incredible connection that I share with hundreds and thousands and millions of Jews, but it really is so close also in my heart. So that right now, that is why I also joined the Army after high school. And I wasn't in a counter-terrorist organization. I was just in the regular Army. But I guess I did a good enough job too, because we're still around. Anyway, but once on a furlough from the Army, I was walking through the city of Jerusalem. As I'm sure that a few of you have heard this more than once. I saw a sign on a building. Now, in Jerusalem, for those of you who are here the first time, and certainly those of you who are here more than their first time, and those of you who even live here, you know that by reading the street signs of Jerusalem, you can actually get a bachelor's degree in Jewish history. And so that's my hobby, to read the signs in Jerusalem. And this sign that I crossed the street in order to see said it on an ICEJ. And in small letters underneath it said, International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem. So I thought, well, what is that? What's the Christian Embassy, Jerusalem? I walked inside, I saw there were brochures, I surreptitiously grabbed some brochures. The receptionist said, can I help you? I said, no, just looking, it's all right. And I went home and I looked at these brochures and I said, what's going on over here? These are Christians who love Jews. Now, that's not something that they taught us in day school, that there are Christians who love Jews. And you well know that that's because it had been a very small movement. But little by little, I started reaching out and searching out to these Christians, to people like you, and some of you, in fact, individually. And I saw that this was a movement that was growing. And I felt in my heart that it is a task that is mandated to me personally, that I need to be a bridge between Jews and Christians. Now, that sounds somewhat haughty, but I look around me and I'm looking for somebody else who can do it. And there are other people. Thank God I have, and I can mention some by name. Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, one of the great leaders, Jewish leaders in our day today. Amen. And who works so strongly on building relationships with Christians. His colleague, David Nekrutman, one of the first people that I also met in order to figure out what this whole thing is talking about, We earlier mentioned at our table Josh Weinstein, the leader of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus. There are a number, but I'm mentioning another one. It's still so small. It's a teep, a drip, and there's not enough. And so I said, I have no choice. I have to leave my job and my career in high tech. I was set to be the next Steve Jobs, but I said, what can I do? I've got something more bigger than that. And so I said, I want to do something with these pro-Israel Christians, because I know that there's a thirst to have a connection with the Jewish people, and that's something that comes straight from your scriptures. Yeah. And there's also an importance for us, for the Jewish people, for Israel to build this bridge, because while it says in the Bible, and here comes a new commentary. There's one weekly portion. You know that the 5 books of Moses, the Torah, is split up into about 50 different portions. Each one is read weekly in the Jewish synagogue. One of those is the portion of Balak that talks about the king Balak, I'm not sure how you pronounce that in English, who hired Bilam, or Balaam, I think he's also called in English, to curse the Jewish people. He was a non-Jewish magician, and he came and he wanted to curse the Jewish people, but he wasn't able to curse the Jewish people because the God of Israel decided to turn his curse into a blessing. Amen. And those blessings are some of the most beautiful poetry in the Bible and are prayed by Jews today in our prayers. The blessings of Bilam. So one of the most famous is Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob. But what comes to my mind is another one of the numerous verses that Bilam said is Hen am levadad yishkon uvagoyim lo yitchashav. That says that there is one nation who sits alone, who lives alone, and does not take into consideration what the non-Jews, what the nations think. That is one way of translating what I just said. But now I think that this this verse must be translated differently. The intonation must be different. Hen an levadad yishkon. Is it possible that this nation forever and ever will only sit alone? Uvagoyim lo yitchashev, and won't take into consideration the nations? The Jewish people is B'ni B'chori Yisrael. God writes in the Bible that you, O Jacob, are my firstborn. But if we are the firstborn, that means we have other brothers. And God is commanding us, Hen an levadad yishkon. You think that you could just sit alone and not take your responsibility seriously? You think that it's up to you to just sit in the houses of Jacob? Ma tovu alecha Yaakov. How beautiful are your houses, or are your tents, O Jacob? Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Your dwelling places, O Israel. Well, that's really very nice. I don't have much jewelry, and I think that there might be some people here in the room that have jewelry. But is there anybody in this room that never shows off their beautiful jewelry? That's what jewelry is for, to put it into the jewelry box, and if somebody dares open it, no, nobody's allowed to see it. What are you talking about? Beauty is meant to share. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov. You have beautiful homes. You have beautiful values. What is a home? What is the home built out of? The home is built out of values. Your beautiful values, they are meant to share with the rest of the world. Hen am levadad yishkon. If you continue shochen, if you continue to live just as one, then it's just a hen. Like you're just a little hen walking around. That's not really what the word means. But, so this is something that just came to me right now. I don't usually, I've spoken innumerable times here, and I've learned that no matter how much I prepare, something else is going to come out. And